The story begins with a regular student walking down the street. He's just crossing the road when suddenly, a loud sound seizes his attention. It's the blaring horn of a bus, rushing at full speed, leaving the poor guy no time to react. Darkness engulfs him, and when he opens his eyes, a breathtaking world unfolds before him. Mythical creatures and floating islands brimming with magic stretch across the horizon. He cried endlessly, desperate to escape at all costs. However, beneath the statue of that world's goddess, a cleric revealed a way for him to return home. Determined, he adapted to this new realm, stepping onto the battlefield to fight against the forces of the Demon Lord. Along the way, he forged friendships that helped him develop trust in others and camaraderie, things he never truly grasped in his previous life. He kept growing, becoming stronger, capable of facing any adversary in his path. But tragedy is an inescapable part of life, and so, he also lost people he deeply cherished. Individuals who, even in their final moments, never lost faith in him. Despite the anguish weighing on his heart, he managed to push through and keep moving forward. Before reaching the end of his journey, he decided to write a letter to his parents. There was likely no way to send it, yet he still asked them to pray for him. The moment arrives, and his companions ask if he's ready. He rises to his feet and pushes open the gate, leading to their final and greatest challenge. Before stepping inside, he glances at his party, the people who have walked this entire path with him. The massive door finally creaks open with an eerie sound, and in the center of the chamber stands the one and only Demon Lord, prepared to face the hero of that world, Min-Soo Kim, our protagonist. The next day finally dawns. Bells echo throughout the city as the people cheer in joy, chanting the name of the warrior who vanquished the Demon Lord. At the heart of a grand banquet, Min-Soo and his party celebrate their triumph, yet it seems his mind is elsewhere. The cleric gently asks if Min-Soo is truly leaving the next day. He confirms, feeling relieved that he can finally return home after all this time. Admitting that he once thought this day would never come, he lets out a soft laugh. The cleric chuckles, reminiscing about how much of a crybaby he was upon arriving. She pulls him into a hug, commending him for his incredible achievements. Overwhelmed, his emotions burst forth, and he begins to sob, confessing how much he misses his parents and friends. One of his companions bursts into laughter, admitting he always suspected there was something between Min-Soo and the cleric. Their faces flush red as the rest of the party continues laughing. Another member asks if he has ever considered staying in this world. The cleric swiftly interrupts, reminding everyone that Min-Soo's goal has always been to return home, and they shouldn't pressure him. The rest feel guilty, but confess that it pains them to see him leave. Finally, the cleric asks everyone to pray for Min-Soo, certain that after everything he has done for this world, good fortune and blessings await him in his own. 3 weeks have passed since Min-Soo returned to Earth. He gazes up at the sky, his eyes devoid of the happiness he once felt at coming home. The cleric was utterly mistaken. He saved the world, but he couldn't save himself. Upon returning, he was met with a stranger, a new resident he had never seen before. Min-Soo soon discovered the grim truth. 8 months after he vanished, his mother was struck by a car while distributing his missing person posters. 2 weeks later, his father, consumed by despair over failing to protect his family, took his own life. Even then, his father insisted that his missing poster be included in the news coverage of his death. Both of his parents were gone, his heart broken, and the reasons to return home were starting to fade. The police classified Min-Soo as a runaway, leading to his expulsion from school. His teachers practically threw him out, blaming him for what had happened to his family. His friends abandoned him, treating him as someone to be avoided at all costs. Even his remaining relatives refused to see him, holding him responsible for his parents' deaths. If only he had contacted them even once, perhaps they would still be alive. Yet no one knew he had no way to reach them. His family was not wealthy, leaving him with nothing after their passing. With barely $2 in his pocket, he spent his nights on an empty bench in the park. He had no family, no friends, no education, and no money. He no longer belonged to this world. He had saved countless lives, risked everything to return, and yet he now wondered why he had been abandoned. Suddenly, in the middle of the street, a much larger man bumped into him. Irritated, the tall guy demanded to know why Min-Soo was just standing there. His girlfriend laughed, calling Min-Soo a weakling. The guy smirked, deciding to spare Min-Soo's life, just because his girlfriend found him amusing. Min-Soo didn't react. Instead, he stared at them, his expression unreadable, and asked, "Why aren't you sad?" Tears welled up in his eyes as he repeated his question. "Are you not sad because you didn't save the world?" The man scowled, not understanding what Min-Soo was rambling about, his irritation growing. But Min-Soo continued, his voice filled with conviction. Now he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to make everyone as miserable as he was. The tall guy had heard enough. He grabbed Min-Soo's head, ready to teach him a lesson. But before he could act, Min-Soo calmly extended his hand. summoning his sword. The girl burst into laughter again, mocking him for thinking he was some kind of fantasy hero. Yet, in the next instant, a colossal sword plummeted from the sky, reducing the tall guy to nothing but fragments. The girl's laughter turned into a blood-curdling scream as she realized what had just happened. Minsu reveled in the sound of her terror, his voice laced with twisted delight. "It's not fair if I'm the only one suffering." Armor materialized, wrapping around his body as he declared himself a warrior. And as a warrior, he believed he should be the least unhappy person. Gripping his legendary sword, his armor fully formed. With a single, devastating slash, an immense wave of energy tore through the surroundings, obliterating buildings and triggering a massive explosion in the city. Standing amidst the smoldering crater he had just created, Minsu pondered one final thought. Why didn't this story end with a hero who lived happily after saving the world? 3 weeks have passed since the warriors' rampage, and the outskirts of the city are packed with cars trying to find safety. At least once in their lives, the idea of an apocalypse has crossed their minds, but I'm sure they never imagined it would be like this. Inside one of the vehicles, a young man named Jongsu Park watches the streets nervously. His mother tries to break the tension by mentioning that the traffic is overwhelming. Suddenly, his little sister starts sobbing, wondering where they are heading and why their father is not with them. Jongsu reassures her, saying that they will meet Dad if they keep moving south. He holds her hand, urging her to be strong. Out of nowhere, a police motorcycle speeds between the cars. When he reaches the front, he starts shouting that the warrior is approaching. There's no time to waste, so everyone must abandon their cars and continue on foot. He repeats the order for everyone to start walking and to follow the instructions from the police and military. Jongsu's mom tells him to stay close to Dabin, his younger sister, since finding each other will be difficult if they get separated. He anxiously agrees, and his sister clings to his arm. The police keep using the megaphone to warn everyone that the warrior is nearing, but before he can finish, a tank crashes down on him, ending his life instantly. People begin panicking upon witnessing the officer being crushed and start fleeing as if there were no tomorrow. After all, they are in a world being annihilated by a warrior. Unable to keep up with her brother's pace, Dabin begs him to slow down. Jongsu lifts her up in an attempt to get them to safety. Minsu appears unexpectedly, observing the crowd from a bridge. The thought of them running, believing there is still a chance to be saved, disgusts him. Even worse is the idea that they can survive after witnessing so many perish around them. Minsu descends toward them, proclaiming that everyone should die. Jongsu continues sprinting with his sister in his arms, but someone collides with him, causing his sister's bunny plush to slip under a car. Dabin desperately pleads with her brother to retrieve the stuffed animal. Jongsu tries to make her forget about it, but she reminds him that it was a present from their father, given to her when she turned 6. Jongsu gently places her on top of a car and asks which vehicle he should check. She points to a solitary car amid the waves of people. Jongsu tells her to keep an eye on their mother and grandmother so they can reunite later. He rushes toward the car, shoving people aside until he finally reaches it. He crouches to grab the plush, and at that moment, Minsu raises his sacred sword and, with a single slash, cuts through everything on the street. Jongsu finally stands up, relieved to have recovered the bunny. However, upon surveying his surroundings, he realizes that everything has been obliterated. Alarmed, he dashes back, searching for his sister and the rest of his family. Suddenly, he steps on something. Looking down, he finds his little sister's hand. Frantic, he clears the wreckage, hoping that she is still alive, but the sight paralyzes him. What he uncovers doesn't even resemble his sister anymore. Minsu slowly approaches from behind, drawing Jongsu's attention. Minsu praises his eyes. They are the eyes of someone who has lost everything, just like his, devoid of hope and dreams. Jongsu screams at him, demanding to know if he is responsible for his sister's death. Stoically, Minsu confirms. Jongsu grips a stick and lunges forward in an attempt to avenge his family. But in an instant, Minsu seizes him by the throat. Jongsu struggles to breathe, yet even in that dire moment, he declares that he will kill him. Minsu doesn't even flinch upon hearing those words and, with his blade, impales Jongsu. That day, he lost everything at the hands of the warrior and was powerless to stop it. In his final moments, he manages to whisper apologies to his little sister, his parents, and his grandmother before everything fades to black. However, he hears a mysterious voice urging him to wake up. His vision gradually returns, focusing on a small magician who calls him Warrior. Upon seeing him stir, she joyfully exclaims that the warrior is awake. Without warning, Jongsu has been reincarnated in another world as the very thing he despised most, a warrior. 1 year has already passed since the warrior's rampage. The government no longer exists, and above everything stands Minsu, who is practically untouchable at this point. As time went on, more warriors awakened to seize control of South Korea alongside Minsu. They followed him, dividing the entire country into 10 sectors, one for each warrior. As a result, the whole world fell into a state of chaos. We move to Jeju Province, the domain of the Golem Warrior. A ruined city looms beneath a colossal stone eye. Inside one of the buildings, a large group of people is gathered, resembling a refugee camp. Everyone is asleep except for 2 girls. One of them whispers that she wants to die, while the other pleads with her to stop, fearing it will bring bad luck. The first girl insists that it doesn't matter. After all, what's the point of living like this? The other girl starts crying, begging her to stop and reminding her that they came all this way just to survive. Suddenly, the door bursts open. A massive stone hand with a speaker attached to it announces that it's time to work. It demands, in a booming voice, that everyone wake up and start moving unless they want to die. People scramble out of the room, revealing numerous identical hands, all repeating the same command. The crowd gathers in front of a building that resembles a school. A moment later, a man appears before them as the stone hands shift, forming a path leading to what looks like an altar. That man is Seonggu Jeon, the Golem Warrior. With a snap of his fingers, the dirt begins to rise from the ground, coalescing into a massive sphere that takes the form of 2 towering speakers. A floating microphone drifts towards Seonggu, and he begins by greeting everyone to a brand new day. According to his schedule, today the women will gather food while the men work on the construction of the Philosopher's Tower. Seeing no reaction, he asks why everyone looks so downcast, as if they don't want to work. The girl from earlier softly mutters that no one wants to do this. Seonggu takes the microphone again and reminds them that they should be grateful for not being in the territories of the vampire or faith warrior, otherwise they'd already be dead. Even after his speech, the silence persists, making his temper flare. Muttering to himself, he pinches his fingers, complaining that he's been too lenient. Upon witnessing this, the crowd erupts in panic as the stone hands mimic their master's gesture. Seonggu flicks his fingers. The hands follow his command, launching debris at high speed, piercing the bodies of their victims. The girl remains motionless, watching her friend's final moments as she gasps her name one last time, Somin. While the rest of the people flee in terror, Somin kneels and closes her friend's eyes. She bitterly acknowledges that her friend was right about bad luck. Now, she must continue enduring this nightmare alone. Seonggu coldly orders everyone to start working unless they want him to flick his finger again. Sometime later, Somin is in the fields, collecting tangerines like the other women. She suddenly notices an elderly woman adding extra fruit to her basket. The old lady strikes up a conversation, remarking that she must be shaken after what happened earlier. She advises Somin to take a walk, assuring her that the tangerines in her basket will be enough to meet the quota. Somin hesitates, asking if she will be all right. The woman smiles, saying it's fine. After all, she's been picking tangerines her whole life. Before leaving, the elder reminds her to be cautious of the floating stone eye in the sky. Somin wanders into the forest, eventually reaching the sea. Whenever she feels powerless, gazing at the ocean makes her feel at peace. Perhaps that's why she chose to flee to Jeju Island. She falls to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She deeply regrets not being able to help Hayun as she lay dying. A rustling sound from the bushes makes her stop. A soldier emerges, pleading for food. She hands him everything she has, but after finishing, the man begs for more. He tells her he left his boat to retrieve supplies for the rest of his crew. Somin asks if they will fight the warrior again once they regain their strength. The man confidently assures her that they will, and with their spirits high, they might even reclaim the island. She glances at the sky, checking the direction of the floating eye. Realizing she has enough time to retrieve her basket and return before it shifts its gaze, she makes a decision. Somin accepts the risk, willing to sacrifice her life to deliver food to them. She dashes back, no longer wanting to endure this wretched existence. Upon reaching the shore, she drops the basket, her face frozen in horror. Seonggu greets her, his stone hands mercilessly crushing the lifeless bodies of the remaining soldiers. Without warning, a stone hand lunges from behind, tightening its grip around her body. She frantically searches for an explanation. How did he know they were here if the eye wasn't looking in this direction? Seonggu smirks, asking if she truly thought there was only one floating eye. He deactivates the invisibility, revealing a vast river of stone eyes filling the sky. He erupts into manic laughter, clapping his hands in delight. He boasts that he's been toying with everyone all this time, but it's far more entertaining when they know they're being watched. Somin screams, calling him a bastard. Menacingly, he declares that everything is her fault for being weak. If she wanted to change something, she should have become a warrior. As he speaks, Seonggu increases the pressure on the hand constricting her. Somin knows there is no escape. With the last of her strength, she cries out, desperately begging for someone strong enough to fight in her place. Out of nowhere, the sky splits open, and a sphere of light crashes onto the ground, raising a thick cloud of dust. As the brilliance fades, a lone figure stands, gripping a sacred spear. Neither Seunggu nor Somin recognizes the man before them. It is revealed that the warrior Jongsu Park, our true protagonist, has finally returned. Jongsu glances at the floating hands, still clutching the corpses of the soldiers. He asks Somin to explain what's happening. Before she can respond, Seunggu demands to know who he is and why he dares enter his domain. Somin realizes that the golem warrior doesn't recognize him, meaning he must be a warrior with no ties to the sword warrior. She knows an opportunity like this won't come again. She quickly explains everything, revealing that Seunggu is merely a servant of the sword warrior and that he has taken control of Jeju Island. Before she can finish, Seunggu begins squeezing her again, enraged that she dares ignore him to chat with another man. Jongsu interrupts with one last question. He demands to know if everything Somin said is true. Seunggu laughs, challenging him to say what he would do if it were. Jongsu replies with a single sentence: he will end his life. He shifts into a combat stance. Without hesitation, Seunggu readies himself for battle, hurling his stone hands and firing his laser eyes at the unknown foe. Jongsu remains unfazed. Twirling his spear, he effortlessly deflects every attack. Without delay, he lunges forward, slicing through both of Seunggu's arms with a single fluid motion. Seunggu is in shock. He cannot fathom how someone has overpowered him so easily. Jongsu follows up with a kick to his face, slamming him against the ground, his spear now aimed directly at him. The battle is over. Somin is in disbelief. This man has bested the golem warrior, who was powerful enough to annihilate an entire fleet. Jongsu asks if the sword warrior Somin mentioned refers to the warrior clad in white armor. Seunggu refuses to answer, and it costs him a leg. Jongsu calmly states that every time he stays silent, he will lose another limb. He repeats the question. This time, Seunggu confirms. Next, Jongsu demands to know the warrior's whereabouts, but Seunggu remains silent. He loses his other leg. Jongsu asks once more, but now, with nothing left to sacrifice, Seunggu can only plead for his life. Jongsu has no intention of sparing him, but if he cooperates, he will grant him a swift and painless death. Seunggu suddenly laughs, revealing that he has been speaking with his golems all along. Seunggu is swiftly carried away by two stone hands, while the floating eyes act as sentries. As he continues to bleed out, his past resurfaces in his mind. Just like Minsu, he was once summoned to another world with the mission of vanquishing the demon lord. Yet, upon returning to his own world, his parents cast him out, refusing to accept him as their son. To them, he was already dead. Even in the workplace, he held no value. He had lied about his age to get a job, but when they discovered the truth, they threatened to call the authorities and denied him any compensation for his labor. Snapping back to reality, he mutters that he doesn't want to die. When he looks at Jongsu, he sees that all of his golems have already been defeated. Jongsu prepares to hurl his spear, declaring that every warrior deserves to perish. Summoning the last of his strength, Seunggu unleashes his most powerful technique, Flowers of Prayer. All the remaining golems converge around him, forming a massive flower-like structure, a laser gathering at its core. Jongsu doesn't waver. He channels lightning into his spear, glowing runes igniting along his arm. He launches his weapon, calling forth God's Wrath. Flowers of Prayer and God's Wrath collide in a cataclysmic explosion, but Jongsu's attack is far too overwhelming. The spear tears through the flower-like structure and strikes true, piercing Seunggu's heart. At last, Seunggu collapses. The warrior who ravaged Jeju Island has been slain. We transition to the world where Seunggu was once summoned. The cleric who had journeyed with him gives final instructions for the construction of a statue in the golem warrior's honor. She and the rest of their former party feel that this is the least they can do to repay even a fraction of their debt to him. A crowd gathers before the statue, offering prayers for his happiness in the world he returned to, unaware of the grim fate that awaited him on the other side. After the golem warrior was defeated, his golems began to crumble all over the island. For the first time since the warrior's rampage, tranquility returned to Jeju Island. Finally liberated, the people started celebrating, unaware of Jongsu observing them from a distance. He noticed a family crying as they finally reunited, stirring painful memories of what he had lost. He softly muttered that he missed the feeling of having a safe place to return to. Suddenly, he heard something rustling in the bushes and instinctively assumed a defensive stance, pointing his spear at the source of the noise. Somin urged him to stop and reminded him that she was the girl from the beach. She asked why he was hiding, certain that everyone would be thrilled to meet the person who had vanquished the golem warrior. He dismissed her words, saying there was nothing remarkable about a warrior defeating another warrior and that his presence would only instill fear. As he turned to leave, he added that he didn't care about their well-being. Someone countered, saying he was considerate for even thinking about how they might feel. Unfazed, Jongsu told her she could believe whatever she wanted. Someone blocked his path, demanding to know if he was serious about eliminating all the warriors. He affirmed that the warrior in white armor was his true target and that anyone aligned with him would share the same fate. Someone hesitated before speaking again, asking if revenge was his sole motivation. Jongsu confirmed. She then pleaded with him to take her along, insisting that she too sought vengeance. Admitting she would be a hindrance, she assured him she possessed valuable information. During her journey from Seoul to Jeju, she had seen where the warriors were stationed. She knew which one ruled over which region and had insight into their abilities. She pointed out that traveling from the island to Seoul without provisions or shelter was unrealistic. If he wanted transportation, sustenance, and a place to rest, he would need someone capable of communicating with civilians. She offered to be his guide. Jongsu interrupted, questioning her motives. If she remained on the island, she would be safe and had the chance to live comfortably. She responded with a bitter smile. She admitted she was weak. Clutching a photograph of her family, she confessed that ever since she lost them, anger toward the warriors was all she had felt. She lacked the strength to fight them herself, but if Jongsu could accomplish it, even indirectly, she would achieve her revenge. Jongsu finally relented. She could accompany him, but only if she was willing to be used or abandoned. And so, the two embarked on their journey to Seoul. Inside an abandoned warehouse, Jongsu sharpened his spear while Soman outlined their options. They could either face a stronger warrior nearby or pursue a weaker one much farther away. Jongsu chooses the one that will be faster to defeat. Their next target was decided, the Sea Dragon Warrior. She was the dominant force at sea, capable of obliterating entire fleets effortlessly. Her monstrous companion, a colossal sea dragon, was feared as a living nuclear weapon. The pair were ruthless killers, responsible for the deaths of most evacuees attempting to reach Jeju Island. Soman's voice trembled as she spoke of the warrior. Tears welled in her eyes as she recalled how the Sea Dragon Warrior had taken her mother from her. Jongsu remained indifferent to her grief. He stated that he would need a boat. Soman wiped her tears and nodded. She knew the right people. Following the Golem Warrior's downfall, the Navy had managed to recover several warships. The surviving officers were tending to their injuries, but they were prepared to return to battle. Sometime later, Jongsu and Soman arrived at the shore, where a group of officers stood ready for departure. Their captain stepped forward, assuring them that in honor of their fallen comrades, they would take them safely to the mainland. In the waters of South Korea, the sea grew restless. Whirlpools churned violently, disturbing the waves. At the heart of the largest vortex, a lone warrior rested beside her monstrous companion. The sea dragon stirred, sensing a distant presence. She gently patted its head, murmuring a reassurance. Those intruders would never reach the mainland. Back on Jeju Island, a soldier is digging graves for his fallen comrades. While pausing for a break, the captain approaches, informing him that they will set sail in 2 hours. The soldier rises to his feet, questioning whether they are truly making the right decision. They still don't know if the warrior who defeated the Golem Warrior is an ally or an enemy. They also have no certainty that he will be able to overcome the Sea Dragon Warrior, let alone stand a chance against Min-soo Kim if they reach the mainland. Gazing at his deceased comrades, he wonders aloud why he should willingly return to that nightmare. Stoically, the captain states that the only undeniable fact is that Jongsu managed to slay the Golem Warrior and that his goal is to eliminate the remaining ones. He adds that more than 30 officers have perished, and if he ever reunites with them, he wants to tell them that he died after finding a way to save everyone. He wants to say that he gave his life protecting those they fought for, to give meaning to their sacrifices. If by any chance, Jongsu proves stronger than Min-soo Kim, then their journey and sacrifice would have been a step towards South Korea's liberation. The captain then asks if that reason is enough to make him reconsider. 1 hour has passed since their departure. Jongsu and Soman are inside the ship, discussing the Sea Dragon Warrior. She shows him a rather peculiar drawing of the warrior and the beast she commands. Jongsu, trying to make sense of the sketch, asks if his opponent is supposed to be a worm and a stick figure. She shouts at him for mocking her, insisting that she did her best despite her lack of drawing skills. Soman explains that they are technically 2 warriors fighting as one, a feature that distinguishes them from the others. Jongsu attempts to grasp her point, guessing that both can attack independently. Soman corrects him. According to what she witnessed, the warrior always remains on the creature's head, and the monster doesn't move until receiving an order. The female warrior acts as the brain, while the sea dragon serves as the muscle. Jongsu then asks how they typically engage their enemies. She explains that the dragon breathes fire from its mouth, or attacks at close range, while the woman deflects any incoming assaults. Jong-soo concludes that they function like a spear and a shield, blending offense and defense to form an exceptionally formidable adversary. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blare. Both rush outside as the captain shouts for everyone to assume battle positions. Jong-soo asks one of the officers what's happening, and he responds that the radar has detected an unknown number of fast-moving objects heading their way. Jong-soo moves to the bow of the ship, gripping his spear, prepared for combat. The officers also take their positions, firing from the turrets. They notice dead fish floating to the surface, while others frantically leap onto the deck. Jong-soo recognizes that something has terrified them, something that is about to reveal itself. A massive whirlpool forms ahead of the ship, and from its depths, the sea dragon emerges. Standing atop the beast's head, Sua Shin, the sea dragon warrior, fixes her gaze on the man who defeated the golem warrior. The creature begins charging its fiery breath. Upon witnessing this, the captain orders evasive maneuvers. Jong-soo shouts, commanding them to drop the anchor. One of the officers struggles to comprehend why Jong-soo would request such a thing. Escaping is the logical choice. Despite his doubts, the captain declares that from this moment on, they will follow the warrior's orders. He gives the command to release the anchor. Obeying Sua's orders, the beast unleashes its fire attack. Jong-soo calls upon his shield spear, Ansile. From the sky, a crimson lightning bolt descends upon his weapon, transforming it into a cross-shaped spear. He activates its defensive ability, conjuring a massive shield in front of the ship. Jong-soo warns everyone to take cover if they want to survive. Both forces collide, triggering a colossal explosion that violently disturbs the sea. The shield remains firm against the relentless assault. One of the soldiers feels helpless, believing the hero cannot fight if he continues exhausting his energy defending the ship. The captain is frozen, witnessing the fierce clash between warriors. He quickly regains his composure, commanding his crew to prepare for battle and aim for their enemies' heads. The turrets unleash a barrage, launching a massive number of missiles toward the sea dragon's head. Without hesitation, Sua raises her trident, summoning the Shield of Atlas. A blue magic circle materializes in front of the sea dragon, intercepting all the missiles before they reach their target. One of the officers panics, shouting that their attack has been blocked. However, the captain remains calm. From the start, they knew their firepower was no match for the beast. Their assault was merely a distraction. He orders them to keep firing until they deplete their ammunition. More missiles launch from the ship, targeting the warrior. Jong-soo, still holding back the dragon's breath, realizes that the ship's attacks aren't entirely futile. He notices that each time Sua activates her shield, the dragon's breath weakens. He deduces that both share the same mana pool. If he can drain it, he'll have an opportunity to strike. Jong-soo advances, closing the distance between himself and Sua. She quickly surmises that he must be moving forward because he has realized the dragon's breath is losing strength. She starts spinning her trident before hurling it into the air. She has decided to eliminate the very reason she activated her shield in the first place. Catching her trident once more, it begins glowing with a blue aura. She hurls it toward the ship, naming the attack Spear of Atlas. The trident speeds toward its target, but just as it is about to strike Jong-soo's shield, Sua raises a finger, causing the weapon to veer upward. She continues guiding it with precise movements, as if conducting an orchestra. With every motion, the trident demolishes each turret on the ship and slaughters the officers aboard. Finally, the spear turns toward Jong-soo's position, alarming Soman and one of the remaining officers. Confident in her advantage, with the dragon's breath attacking from the front and her trident from behind, Sua proclaims that the nameless warrior's end has arrived. A splatter of blood signals that someone has been struck by the trident. However, it was one of the officers. With the last of his strength, he grips the trident, preventing it from piercing Jong-soo. The weapon's mana finally dissipates, coming to a complete halt, causing Sua to feel concern for the first time in the battle. The officer looks at Jong-soo and urges him to seize the opportunity to strike before collapsing to the floor. Jong-soo expresses his gratitude for the sacrifice, then takes hold of Sua's trident, infusing it with his own mana. Now we are transported to the world where Sua was summoned to become a warrior. She looks in awe upon witnessing a civilization flourishing beneath the sea. This place is called Atlas, the realm of the sea dragon. A blue-haired man wielding a sacred trident welcomes her to his kingdom. He tells Sua that by now, she should already know the way to return to her own world. She nods, adding that everything still feels unfamiliar and strange to her. The blue-haired man tells her to take her time and hands her the sacred trident. That weapon has been passed down for generations and is bestowed upon the one chosen to become the Sea Dragon warrior. Upon receiving the trident, Sua officially becomes his warrior, and he entrusts his life to her. He bows, declaring himself a servant of the Sea Dragon Warrior, and kisses her hand, sealing the pact. From that day forward, he vows to protect Sua from any adversary that dares to stand in her way as she approaches her final battle against the Demon Lord. Returning to the present, Sua seethes with fury at the sight of Jongsu daring to hold her most cherished possession. She demands that he return it. As the dragon begins charging another fire attack, he responds stoically, stating that he will return it for sure, but it will end lodged in the middle of her skull. The sea dragon unleashes its attack, and it collides once more with Jongsu's shield. However, instead of holding it back, he deactivates his shield. He channels mana into the trident and hurls it, naming the attack Path of Frost. The trident soars at full speed, freezing the dragon's breath as it nears Sua. She starts feeling uneasy as her assault is nullified. She commands her dragon to cease its breath, shifting their focus to defense. The dragon halts its attack as Sua begins summoning another technique. She calls upon the giant shield of Atlas, manifesting 5 parallel barriers in front of the dragon. She smiles in relief, recalling that not even the Demon Lord was able to break through her 5-layered shield. The trident finally reaches her defenses and, slowly but steadily, begins piercing through them one by one. Sua's smile fades. She cannot believe her barriers are being breached so effortlessly. The trident strikes the 5th and final layer, which starts to fracture. However, the weapon runs out of mana and stops moving, making Sua feel relieved once more since they can now use the dragon's breath again. As she glances toward the bow of the ship, she realizes that the nameless warrior has vanished. Scanning the surroundings, she finally spots him standing over a frozen sea. All this time, he wasn't using his freezing ability solely to counter the dragon's breath. Instead, he was creating a path to get closer to them. Jongsu gets into position. Gripping his cross-shaped spear, he swings it in a vertical slash, slicing through the colossal beast and Sua in half. In her final moments, she gently pats her sea dragon, whispering her love for the last time. She and her creature finally fall, completely defeated. Some time ago, in another world, Sua and the sea dragon had at last triumphed over the Demon Lord. In an unexpected twist, it is revealed that the sea dragon was actually the blue-haired man who had welcomed Sua. He holds her in his arms, relieved that they have averted the foretold apocalypse. He thanks the warrior for saving his world, causing her to blush. They end up kissing, though she weeps, knowing that once she returns home, they will be forced to part ways. He assures her that he will accompany her. After all, he has fulfilled his role as the Lord of Atlas, restoring peace to his realm. When they return to his castle, his subjects warn him that the warrior's world might be vastly different from theirs. He remains resolute. If Sua was able to adapt to their world, so can he. He has already chosen an heir to the throne and fulfilled his duty by vanquishing the Demon Lord. From that day forward, he will live as Sua's partner. However, everything began to fall apart the moment they set foot in Sua's world. The human world was not kind to the sea dragon's human form. Remaining in his human guise became increasingly difficult, yet he tried to conceal it from Sua to prevent her from worrying and to continue their happy life together. One day, she returned from work to a shocking sight. He was transforming into his beast form against his will. Terrified, he pleaded with her to stay away. She refused, embracing him tightly and promising that they would move to a deserted island. That way, they wouldn't have to care about the rest of the world, and they could live happily in a home by the sea. With tears in her eyes, she begged him to never ask her to leave his side. They finally set sail. Sua urged him to hold on just a little longer. They were so close to their destination. Covered in a cloth to conceal his body, he apologized, admitting that he could no longer keep it under control. He fully transformed into his beast form, destroying the boat and taking the lives of those on board. The incident spread across the nation, and the government declared them both terrorists, just as they had done with Min-Soo Kim. From that moment on, they were branded as villains and became prime targets of the authorities. However, human forces were insufficient to stop them. She didn't care about being labeled a villain. The sea dragon had fought in his world to protect her, and now it was her turn to fight in her world to protect him. Now, Sua's lifeless body rests in a frozen sea, and with its final breath, the sea dragon utters that he loves her. In soul, the sword warrior remains, still mourning what he has lost. Another warrior approaches. It is Seong-Jun Lee, the resurrection warrior. He informs Min-Soo that the golem warrior and the sea dragon warrior have been slain by an unknown individual who recently emerged in this world. He drops photographs of those involved, including Jong-Soo. Seong-Jun adds that this may bring a glimmer of hope to the people and that the cycle of suffering they were perpetuating could finally end. He advises Min-Soo to take action if he wishes to safeguard his vision of the world. Min-Soo finally rises, bringing a satisfied smile to the face of the resurrection warrior. Now we find ourselves in an unfamiliar hall filled with spears. A voice announces that the first spear, Verbash, has returned, but the fifth spear, Anseal, has vanished. A female mage stands in the chamber alongside a knight. They remark that if the spears are being summoned, it must mean the warrior has begun his vengeance, likely referring to Jongsu. The mage instructs the knight to summon the blacksmiths so they can restore the spears as quickly as possible to repay what Jongsu has done for them. As the knight departs, the mage gazes at the remaining spears with sorrow in her eyes. Upon arriving in that world, Jongsu had no interest in being its savior. Unlike the previous warriors, he pushed his body to its absolute limits. After obliterating the training dummy with his spear, Jongsu's body was completely drained. Noticing this, the mage approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder and advising him to rest. He forcefully shrugged off her touch, declaring that it's not enough until he decides so. Compared to Min-Soo Kim, he was still too weak. The only thought consuming his mind was the need to become stronger. He couldn't shake off the tormenting belief that Dabin, his little sister, perished because he was powerless. During his missions, the spear warrior executed his tasks in silence, without hesitation or uncertainty. His party members were unsettled by his reckless nature, warning him not to venture too deep into the dungeon alone. Yet Jongsu plunged into the fray, battling hordes of goblins, slashing them apart with ease. Suddenly, a colossal orc emerged from behind, landing a devastating strike on Jongsu's nape. He collapsed onto the ground, the monsters preparing to finish him off. His face was drenched in blood, and he started hallucinating, seeing Min-Soo Kim in place of every enemy. His rage surged, fueling him with the strength to rise once more. He mercilessly cut down the goblins and leaped at the orc, stabbing its neck repeatedly until blood splattered in every direction. His party was terrified, but this time, it was because of Jongsu himself. Surrounded by lifeless goblins, he stood in the midst of a crimson massacre. The battle finally ended, his entire body soaked in red. He collapsed, his stamina nearly depleted. Amidst the pile of corpses, he noticed a small hand reaching out for help. His little sister appeared, pleading for his aid. His mother laid beside him, asking if he had taken care of Dabin. His grandmother materialized in front of him, weeping in anguish. Overwhelmed, he clutched his head in despair, begging for the visions to vanish. Rather than a warrior, his actions resembled those of a man consumed by vengeance. Late at night, the mage awoke and found Jongsu sharpening his spear. Grabbing some medicine, she nervously explained that it was ointment for his wounds. Jongsu's back was covered in untreated scars. She began applying the salve, wondering why he insisted on fighting in such a condition. She remarked that his family would be heartbroken to see those scars once he returned home. Jongsu replied coldly that he had no family. They were all gone. Shocked, she asked why he was so desperate to reach the Demon Lord if not to return home as soon as possible. He answered without hesitation. There was someone he needed to kill. She tried to console him, assuring him that no one was stronger than he was and that he didn't need to keep pushing himself anymore. Jongsu interrupted her, stating that his target was incredibly powerful. He wanted to reach a level where he completely overpowered him. When that moment arrived, he would sever all of his limbs. Then he would hang him in a sunlit spot, cutting pieces of his flesh every day and feeding them to him to ensure his survival. The mage recoiled in horror as he grinned maniacally. Jongsu continued muttering, vowing to make his enemy atone for all the lives he had taken and give him a slow, agonizing demise. Sometime later, in a desolate wasteland littered with weapons, the Demon Lord conceded defeat. The spear hero was simply too powerful. Suddenly, a potion bottle shattered over the fallen Demon Lord's body. Jongsu ensured that every drop of its contents soaked his adversary. The mage watched in shock as the healing elixir revived the Demon Lord. A dark aura radiated from the revived foe as he picked up his weapon once more. Menacingly, the Demon Lord questioned if Jongsu desired corruption, if he wished to become a Demon Lord himself. The spear warrior steadied his stance, daring him to attack. After all, he needed this fight to grow even stronger. The Demon Lord hesitated, confused by Jongsu's words. Time passed, and eventually the Demon Lord begged for death. It seemed that Jongsu had revived him countless times. As the warrior prepared for the final strike, the mage threw herself at him, embracing him from behind and pleading for him to stop. Tears streaming down her face, she assured him that he was already strong enough and that they will help him accomplish his vengeance. The scene shifted to a workshop where blacksmiths labored under the mage's supervision, forging spears. She gazed at the sky, whispering a silent plea for the warrior not to become a monster once his revenge was fulfilled. Back in the present, Jong-soo stood wielding his shield spear and Sua's trident. A hallucination of Min-soo Kim appeared beside him, questioning if he truly believed anyone would applaud his efforts. He wasn't a savior, nor the protagonist of some grand legend. He was nothing. Jong-soo was unfazed. Without a second thought, he plunged his weapon into the illusion, watching as it faded away. The only thing he desired was to be the one who killed the sword warrior. Jong-soo approaches the ship through the frozen ocean, tossing his spear and trident on board before leaping onto the deck. Somin is astonished, believing that he might actually be capable of eliminating the remaining warriors. Jong-soo asks her if there are any survivors. Somin shakes her head, indicating that she has already checked the deck, turrets, and even the engine room but found no one alive. She starts wondering what to do since they can't operate the vessel without the soldiers. She asks if Jong-soo has an ability that could take them to land. He seems capable of anything after creating a shield and freezing the sea. Jong-soo interrupts her, stating that he is a warrior, not a magician. He counters, asking if she knows how to operate the ship. After all, she is the guide. Ashamed, Somin admits that she hadn't considered that when she offered to assist him. He walks past her, saying that he only brought her because he thought she could be useful. She turns toward him, demanding to at least know what his plan is. He states that he needs to rest. She might not realize it because she didn't do anything, but he needs to recover after fighting. As he walks away, Somin gets irritated and calls him a show-off, but she knows his words are true. She wants to contribute but has no way to do so. Inside one of the ship's rooms, Somin is using a lantern to search through the drawers. She's focused on finding the ship's manual so she can prove her worth to Jong-soo. Suddenly, she hears footsteps in one of the hallways. She slowly approaches, remembering that the warrior should still be asleep. Reaching the entrance, she peeks outside, startled by the scene. She sees the spear warrior carrying the corpses of the fallen soldiers and placing them on the deck. One by one, Jong-soo covers the bodies. He mentions that his father was also a Navy officer, likely killed by the warriors just like them. He recognizes the soldier who sacrificed himself to stop the trident from striking his back. Jong-soo apologizes for not being able to return them home to their families. With pain in his eyes, he says sorry for failing to protect them. He hopes that in their next lives, they can exist in a world where no sacrifices are necessary. Somin watches from afar, moved by his compassion. The sun finally rises, and they both stand on the deck, noticing something approaching. A chopper appears, full of soldiers and a man in a suit. Sliding the helicopter door open, the man announces that the rebel warrior and the woman accompanying him have been found. He is Jungkook Choi, the leader of the restored government's counter-warrior team. The mission to secure the rebel warrior begins, positioning the chopper above the ship. Jong-soo asks Somin if she radioed anyone, but she denies it. She speculates that they could be allies of the warriors. Some civilians joined them in pursuit of power. Jong-soo gets on guard, ready in case they are foes. Jungkook uses a megaphone to introduce himself and informs them that they will lower a rope ladder. Jong-soo asks Somin if she has heard about the restored government. She says she hasn't seen them in action, but according to the soldiers in Jeju Island, they are a group formed by surviving members of the government and military. She adds that they wage guerrilla warfare against the warriors. Jong-soo says it makes sense that they would want to contact him if they intend to continue their resistance tactics, and he agrees to meet them. Somin and Jong-soo climb the ladder into the chopper. Once inside, Jungkook invites them to sit. Jong-soo remains stoic, but Somin appears nervous as the soldiers proceed to close the doors. Jungkook gives the order, and the pilot starts moving the helicopter toward the mainland. Somin analyzes the situation. Based on Jungkook's attire and the soldiers' gear, they truly seem to be from the restored government, but she is still unsure if they can be trusted. Jong-soo asks where they are heading. Jungkook cuts him off, saying they will be the ones asking questions. One of the soldiers pulls out a pair of handcuffs, alarming Somin, who pleads with them to wait. She yells that Jong-soo has already defeated 2 warriors and is on their side. She stands, trying to make them understand that they are not the enemy. The soldiers immediately raise their weapons, threatening her to stay still if she doesn't want a bullet in her head. Jungkook states that the restored government has no intel on him, so they can't trust him. They are not giving him a ride. Instead, he is being taken as a prisoner. Stoically, Jong-soo asks how many seconds Jungkook thinks it would take him to kill all the soldiers and take control of the helicopter. The spear warrior reminds him that their guns are useless against someone like him. Somin is petrified since, unlike him, those weapons pose a real threat. Jungkook removes his bulletproof vest, revealing a bomb underneath, making Somin almost scream in terror. Jungkook asks the warrior if he believes he can survive if a bomb detonates in a confined space like that. He adds that even if he manages to endure the explosion, what about a fall from 2,000 feet into the ocean's surface? He presses further. Even if he survives the fall, can he swim all the way to shore with those injuries? Clenching his spear, a dark aura begins to emerge from Jong-soo, but Somin tries to pacify him. She tells him that they are fully prepared for any situation. Jungkook advises him to shut up and comply since there's no point in acting tough. Upon hearing that, Jong-soo relaxes his grip, and Jungkook orders his soldiers to restrain them. The chopper arrives at a desolate, ruined city. They finally land on a helipad, and Jungkook exits the aircraft, followed by Jong-soo and Somin, who are tightly bound and blindfolded. A squad of soldiers awaits them at the headquarters of Korea's restored government. A soldier approaches, commending Jungkook for successfully capturing the warrior who has been eliminating the others. Jungkook instructs him to take the spear warrior to the interrogation room for now. He walks away, contemplating whether capturing Jong-soo was a wise decision for them or an advantage for the sword warrior. From afar, a drone records the unfolding scene above the restored government's facility. That footage is being displayed on a wall filled with screens showcasing different parts of the city. A warrior clad in black mechanical armor revels in finally locating his targets. Somin and Jong-soo are tied and blindfolded while being escorted by soldiers. Jong-soo jangles his handcuffs, testing their strength, and deduces that it would only take him 1 second to break them. He focuses on the sound of the soldiers' footsteps, concluding that they are being escorted by 4 or 5 men. With his current power, it would only take him 3 seconds to overpower them. Jong-soo starts getting irritated by the situation and wonders if he should just escape. Suddenly, he stops, alarming the soldiers who order him to keep moving while aiming their guns at him. Jong-soo remains calm, saying that he only agreed to go with them because he wanted to reach land, not because he was afraid of them. The soldiers grow even more tense, ready to shoot at the slightest provocation. They yell at Jong-soo, telling him that he'll be heard once they reach the interrogation room. Jong-soo starts tugging at the handcuffs, but before they break, someone stops him, telling him the soldiers are just frightened. They don't have anything against them. They're simply part of the restored government, and he should remember they share a common enemy. While she speaks, the soldiers remain shaky, their fingers on the triggers. Somin continues, telling Jong-soo that they should try to convince them to offer their help, and that, for now, he should avoid intimidating them. Upon hearing this, Jong-soo relaxes, surprising the soldiers with his shift in attitude. The atmosphere calms, prompting the soldiers to lower their weapons and resume walking. They take Somin to a separate room, lit only by a lamp on a table. The soldiers help her sit and remove her blindfold. In front of her appears Jungkook, who immediately says he knows she's not a warrior. He sits, asking Somin to describe who the rebel warrior really is and what motivated her to travel with him. Upon hearing Jong-soo being called a rebel warrior, Somin thinks it's a cool nickname, but believes he shouldn't be called a warrior, as he is unlike all the others who appeared in the world. Jungkook asks her to elaborate. What exactly makes him different? Somin begins saying that Jong-soo harbors a deep resentment toward the sword warrior, to the point he wants to kill every other warrior aligned with him. It almost seems like Jong-soo will end everything once he completes his revenge against Min-soo Kim. Upon hearing her explanation, Jungkook considers it plausible. The reason Jong-soo appeared a year after Min-soo Kim must be because he was transported to another world when the country was already falling into chaos. His vengeance likely fuels his advance north, killing the rest of the warriors. Jungkook now understands that the rebel warriors' motivations align with those of the restored government. After analyzing the information, Jungkook speaks again, saying that for now, he'll believe in the rebel warrior's objective. But now, he wants Somin to explain why she's traveling with him and why he allowed her to stay. Somin explains that she asked to accompany him, believing he would need a guide. She also mentions that the warriors took her family's lives, so she wanted to help him get revenge. However, she admits that so far she's only been a burden. After hearing that, Jungkook confirms that her story checks out, exciting Somin, who thinks that now that they've found an organization created to eliminate the warriors, they can start working together to restore the world to how it was before their arrival. However, Jungkook cuts her off, saying she still doesn't understand her position and that they won't release Jong-soo from custody. He adds that the restored government doesn't even have the intention to assist Jong-soo in defeating the sword warrior. At least, not until the rebel warrior proves that he can be controlled, unlike the others. Somin freezes, unable to grasp what he's saying. Jungkook continues, asking if she truly trusts the rebel warrior and whether she knows anything about him. Does she know what Jong-soo thinks, or if he's even capable of defeating the sword warrior? Somin is petrified while Jungkook keeps firing questions. Can she even guarantee that the rebel warrior won't give up halfway? Jungkook concludes by asking what will happen once Jong-soo kills the sword warrior. He acknowledges that the rebel warrior could become a symbol of hope for the survivors, thanks to rumors about a warrior killing others. But it's still too dangerous to place their trust in him and offer support, because if the plan fails, there would be no one left capable of rebuilding from scratch. Jungkook says that if they can't control Jongsu, it would be better to kill him now or keep him in custody. Somin realizes her mistake. It would have been wiser to let Jongsu handle the soldiers and escape together. 3 days have passed, and Jongsu is still tied and blindfolded alone in a room. He wonders if the soldiers were truly that scared of him and deduces that they might be trying to starve him to death, as he hasn't received any food or water. However, he knows it's useless, since he can't starve after awakening as a warrior. Suddenly, loud noises erupt outside the room. He recognizes them as gunshots. The door opens. Someone unlocks his handcuffs and removes his blindfold. When he opens his eyes, Jongsu sees Somin with a tall man dressed in what appears to be a superhero costume. The mysterious man seems pleased to meet the warrior, who has just returned to the world, while Jongsu looks at him stoically, wondering who he is. While Somin unties Jongsu, the mysterious man introduces himself as the Iron Arm Warrior and says he came to rescue them. Jongsu starts glaring at Somin, clearly annoyed by her teaming up with another warrior. She explains that the government never intended to help them. From the beginning, they planned to eliminate them, and that's why the Iron Arm Warrior appeared. The Iron Arm Warrior starts laughing, saying that the government has always been untrustworthy. They never planned to support them. He continues, explaining that the government viewed Jongsu as a threat and became obsessed with eliminating him. Somin admits she was mistaken and says she's glad another warrior appeared before they were executed. Suddenly, Jongsu snaps the ropes binding him, startling Somin, who falls backwards. Jongsu raises his hand, and his spear immediately appears, piercing through the wall. After grabbing it, he demands the Iron Arm Warrior to be silent. Immediately, Somin jumps forward, trying to stop Jongsu and asking why he wants to fight someone who is trying to save them. However, Jongsu cuts her off and grabs her face, lifting Somin off the ground and asks if her desire for vengeance against the warriors was that weak. Jongsu had never doubted her since they shared the same goal, and now feels like his trust was betrayed. The Iron Arm Warrior speaks again, claiming that warriors aren't as evil as people say. They simply appeared in the wrong circumstances, but Jongsu demands him to shut up. He doesn't care if it makes him a villain. Jongsu believes that warriors crossed the line, abandoned their humanity, and deserve to die for it. He finally lets go of Somin, and she falls to the ground. Jongsu looks down at her with disgust, telling her to leave if she doesn't want to get caught in the crossfire. Somin starts trembling as she tries to stand and shouts, asking if this will go on until someone ends up dead. Jongsu stops, puzzled by her words, as footsteps echo outside the room. Jungkook enters, followed by 2 soldiers, and announces that Jongsu has passed the test. We're taken back to 3 days ago, at the same moment Somin was being interrogated. Jungkook asks her if she truly believed they would join forces just because she offered the strength of the rebel warrior. He admits it was a clever idea for a kid, but that's not how adults operate. Still, he considers it worth the risk. After all, the rebel warrior has already eliminated 2 others. The only obstacle is the upper ranks of the government, who prefer staying comfortable in their cages over fighting for freedom. Jungkook glances out a window, revealing that the government leaders were watching the entire interrogation. He turns to Somin and asks if she can help him stage a scenario to test the rebel warrior. We return to the present, and Jongsu is still confused, unsure of what test he supposedly passed. Somin confesses that everything was staged, a way to determine if he was truly a warrior killer, someone the restored government could rely on. Jungkook tells Jongsu to lower his spear. The supposed warrior was just an actor with a similar appearance to the real Iron Arm Warrior. Jongsu eases his stance and asks what would have happened if he hadn't treated the fake warrior with hostility. With a grim smile, Jungkook says they all would have died. He reveals that the underside of the desk was rigged with explosives. He adds that if the bombs didn't kill him, the soldiers of the restored government were ready to attack, and if that still wasn't enough to stop him, they would have bought time to evacuate civilians by detonating charges placed throughout the floor to bury him under rubble. He believes sacrificing a few soldiers to protect the future of the people is worth it. Internally, Jongsu realizes that they truly are enemies of the warriors, willing to sacrifice themselves if necessary, and because of that, he feels they might be trustworthy. He tells Jungkook that the test was irritating, but at least now he knows for sure that they share a common enemy. Jungkook agrees. Now that Jongsu has proven himself, the restored government will cooperate with him to the best of its ability. Now Jungkook, Jongsu, and Somin are inside an elevator, descending to floor B12, where the mega shelter of the restored government is located. Somin is amazed by the view as a small city appears around them. She never thought an underground city actually existed and asks if the rumors about a transformer hidden in the basement of the National Assembly building were true. Jungkook tells her they deployed the robot when Min-soo Kim appeared, but it was defeated shortly after, shocking Somin. Then he reveals it was just a joke. Surprised by her gullibility, Jungkook explains that the city is kept secret due to the warriors' intelligence capabilities. They managed to renovate a massive bunker built during the Cold War. Currently, 50,000 people are living in the shelter, which is the size of a small city. He confesses that rumors are spreading about a warrior who appeared to punish the evil ones. When the people in the shelter see Jung-soo descending in the elevator, they begin to cheer and greet him. Jungkook advises Jung-soo not to disappoint the people. If he still has any humanity left, he should fight to protect rather than destroy. They finally exit the elevator and Somin is still in awe, taking notes on everything she sees. Suddenly, Jung-soo notices someone approaching him. A little girl holding flowers walks toward him. When she reaches him, she gives him the flowers and quickly runs back to her parents while Jung-soo watches them from a distance, reminded of his little sister. While holding the flowers, he wonders if there's still something left for him to protect. Suddenly, Jungkook throws him an access card so he can have a place to rest in the city. Jung-soo counters by saying he doesn't intend to stay long. He'll leave once he gets some food, the necessary supplies, and transportation. Somin asks him to wait. She's sure the restored government can provide more than just the essentials. He should reconsider before refusing. Jungkook advises the same. The entire city could be relocated to assist him if that's what he desires. Somin knows Jung-soo doesn't want to involve civilians, but she tells him they should think it over tonight. They move to an apartment, and after Somin takes a shower, she spots Jung-soo seated on the balcony gazing at the city. She approaches and sits beside him, asking if he likes canned peaches. Jung-soo stoically responds that sugar accelerates brain activity, and he's only eating them to think about how to kill the sword warrior. Somin tells him she wishes to know more about him, making Jung-soo get defensive. He wants to know what she means by that. Is she worried he might become like the other warriors? Somin dismisses his concern. Since they're going to work together, it would be good to call each other by name instead of just girl in the bomber jacket. She adds that he owes her that much, especially after leaving bruises on her face. Jung-soo introduces himself, and Somin follows, happy that he'll finally call her by her name. Somin extends her hand and Jung-soo follows, shaking it. That was the first and last time the two of them shared a moment like that. In the city's surveillance room, Jungkook is analyzing the footage of Jung-soo and Somin. He comments to one of his staff that it seems the rebel warrior is completely on their side. The worker confirms it. He didn't find anything suspicious in their conversation, so there's no reason to doubt him. Jungkook reveals that with Jung-soo, they now have 3 warriors on their side, and since the Golem and Sea warriors are dead, they only need to eliminate 7 more. An assistant mentions that 7 versus 3 is still a disadvantage, but they might have a chance if the warriors keep dying at this rate. Jungkook says that in that case, they might eventually return to a world of order, safety, and family. The assistant starts crying, overjoyed that their efforts are finally showing results. Jungkook tells her it's still too early to celebrate, but thanks them for their good work. He urges everyone to keep doing their best for the sake of the people and their families, unaware that it would be the first and last time their work would be praised. Out of nowhere, the entire building rumbles, and Jungkook rushes out upon hearing a loud noise. He glances at the city through a window and sees the shelter's roof breaking. Jung-soo and Somin also notice the sound coming from the surface. Jungkook can't believe what he's seeing. The roof explodes, creating an opening through which 8 warriors descend into the underground city. Jung-soo is shocked to see again the one who took his family from him. The sword warrior lands, shaking everything around him. A warrior with red bat wings follows. He's Hwarang-hong, the vampire warrior. A warrior with golden angel wings approaches. She's Hana Baek, the faith warrior. A pink-haired figure with a magical girl vibe appears. She's Yeren Ma, the magic warrior. A muscular man in a superhero costume identical to the fake one from before starts flexing. He's Uiho Jung, the real Iron Arm warrior. Songjun Lee reappears, the resurrection warrior. A masked man in traditional clothing joins them. He's Jisung Cheon, the martial arts warrior. And finally, the warrior in mechanical armor arrives. He's Garam Lee, the transformation warrior, waiting for Min-soo Kim's orders. Min-soo remains silent as the resurrection warrior approaches him and, with complete confidence, says the purpose should be obvious. He declares that Min-soo wants everyone in the city to fall into despair. The transformation warrior accepts the command and enters an attack stance, deploying missiles from his back in what he calls Buster mode. He fires all the missiles, triggering numerous explosions throughout the city. Jungkook rushes back to the surveillance room, shouting at everyone to activate the city's anti-missile systems and turrets. But everyone in the room stands still and silent. He yells at them again, demanding they hurry up and activate the defenses. But in an instant, they all appear blindfolded, asking in unison if he believes. Jungkook is stunned. realizing that this is the Faith Warrior's ability. The Faith Warrior grins at the building as Jungkook's entire team begins acting like zombies, trying to bring him down. While attempting to hold them back, Jungkook calls his other teams, trying to deploy defenses against the warriors. He urges them to protect the rebel warrior and safeguard the people of the city as his zombified team begins breaking free. However, the artillery unit has already been defeated. The Iron Arm warrior grabs the communicator, telling Jungkook that his efforts are over while he starts dabbing over dozens of falling soldiers. In another building, we see that the intelligence unit was also wiped out, the culprit being the Resurrection warrior, who congratulates them for managing to kill him twice. In the sky, blood slashes destroy the last helicopters of the tactical squadron, all caused by the vampire warrior. In just 3 minutes and 17 seconds, 13,700 people die. Suddenly, a spear infused with mana flies at Min-Soo Kim at high speed. Before it reaches its target, the martial arts warrior steps in and, using the Cheonma technique, deflects the spear with his bare hand. However, the damage isn't entirely nullified. His trembling hand is left drenched in blood. In the distance, Jung-soo appears, sprinting at full speed toward Min-Soo Kim after finally finding him. Min-Soo Kim glares at him, asking if he was the one responsible for breaking the chain of misery. Jung-soo stands before him. He's finally found the person who killed his family, the bastard who ruined his life, the one who destroyed the world he once knew. Jung-soo is trembling with fury. Now that his goal is within reach, what should he do? He clenches his fists and grits his teeth. This is the moment. Jung-soo is ready to kill him and end everything here. Raising his hand, he summons all his spears. Anseal, the shield spear, Yui, the earth spear, Ignit, the fire spear. These are some of the weapons that appear. A multitude more materialize, and Jung-soo grabs a few while the rest float around him as if guarding their master. Min-Soo Kim remains stoic and begins summoning Durankle, his sword. Harnessing the combined powers of his holy and dark spears, Jung-soo unleashes the sacred resonance, Union of the Void. He fires a devastating beam at the sword warrior, who is flanked by the faith and martial arts warriors. The attack is deflected by the sword warrior, carving a deep scar into the ground where the beam struck. However, the faith warrior was not behind him. After taking the full brunt of the blast, only her boots remain. Min-Soo Kim holds his sword, completely unfazed after blocking the attack. Meanwhile, the transformation and magic warriors observe the scene from a distance. They both remark that Jung-soo is actually a worthy adversary. Suddenly, golden fragments begin to coalesce, reconstructing the body of the faith warrior, who praises Jung-soo for the thrilling battle they're about to witness. The martial arts and faith warriors decide to retreat, acknowledging that this fight isn't theirs. Min-Soo Kim takes a battle stance, pointing his sword at Jung-soo, who mirrors him, gripping his poison spear. Jung-soo immediately hurls the spear at Min-Soo, who effortlessly dodges it. But that was part of the strategy. The spear begins releasing poisonous smoke. Min-Soo starts bleeding from his face, but with a swing of his blade, he disperses the smoke. In that instant, Jung-soo appears beside him, wielding his fire and ice spears. In that moment, Min-Soo lowers his sword. For a split second, he considered letting himself die, having seen grief in Jung-soo's eyes as deep as his own. But buried beneath that murder intent and thirst for revenge, Min-Soo sensed a faint glimmer of hope. He believed that Jung-soo was trying to find redemption through his death, and once his mission was complete, Jung-soo would finally find peace. Min-Soo clenched his sword once more, ready to punish his opponent for daring to seek happiness beyond his own. He activated the Eclipse mode of Durankle. Min-Soo's sword and Jung-soo's spears collide with tremendous force, releasing a shockwave of energy that triggers a massive explosion. After the impact, Jung-soo and Min-Soo lie on the ground, exhausted and wounded. Their weapons are completely drained of mana, yet their memories begin to surge, memories of the people they lost. Jung-soo refuses to surrender. He won't let go of the chance to get his revenge. He summons his dark armor, Didantium. Min-Soo follows, praying to the goddess Seraphine to grant him her blessing. Both Jung-soo and Min-Soo become enveloped in energy, condensing into full-body armor. Jung-soo radiates a dark aura, while Min-Soo glows with sacred light. Once again, they charge at each other, weapons drawn, clashing with overwhelming force, resulting in another colossal explosion. Jung-soo and Min-Soo hold their ground, neither yielding, proving that their power is evenly matched. The survivors watch the battle unfold. Hope begins to stir again upon witnessing the spear warrior in action. Some even believe he might have a real chance to win. Elsewhere, Jungkook appears with a few soldiers who manage to survive. Through the communicator, he informs the remaining troops that his last weapon is currently fighting the sword warrior. Their new mission is to distract the remaining warriors, even if it costs them their lives. Jungkook and his group continue moving until they encounter a grotesque monster with numerous faces and limbs. It appears his zombified team has fused into a massive creature due to the power of the Faith Warrior. The beast lunges forward, and Jungkook opens fire, without a trace of fear in his eyes. We return to the area devastated by the Iron Arm Warrior. No one has survived. He claims his actions are a form of enforcing justice. Suddenly, another explosion erupts where Jongsu and Minsu are clashing, catching the Iron Arm Warrior's attention. Curious, he considers joining the fray, but before he can move, a missile hits him square in the back. A lone soldier with a bazooka shouts at him, ordering the warrior to freeze. The Iron Arm Warrior turns, his eyes burning with rage. The soldier opens fire with his gun, but the bullets bounce off, deflected the moment they touch the warrior. The vampire warrior also sees the explosion, surprised that the sword warrior is actually enjoying a fight. He rushes toward the scene, but a rock grazes his face, leaving a cut. More rocks come flying, hurled by a defiant group of survivors who dare him to suck their blood too. The vampire warrior fills with fury, mildly stunned by the group's boldness. We shift to the building where the resurrection warrior slaughtered the intelligence team, except for one survivor, who now creeps toward him from behind. As he gets close, the survivor leaps and begins choking the warrior. Elsewhere in the shelter, a group of survivors hurls Molotov cocktails at the transformation warrior, though he doesn't react, as if unaware of their presence. Back with Jungkook, he continues firing at the merged monster, but his efforts seem futile as the creature lifts him off the ground. Meanwhile, Jongsu keeps thrusting his spear, but Minsu dodges each strike. The sword warrior clenches his fist and lands a powerful punch, sending Jongsu flying. While airborne, Jongsu grabs his earth spear and activates its earthquake ability. He hurls the spear at Minsu, who parries it into the ground with his blade. Instantly, the spear releases a deep, ominous sound. The ground begins to tremble, pulling Minsu's legs into it. Jongsu seizes the opening and grabs his dragon spear. Activating the dragon's descent ability, he surrounds the spear with the spirit of a dragon and throws it at Minsu, triggering a massive explosion. Without hesitation, Jongsu charges forward with his fragmented spear, determined to end it once and for all. The spear warrior activates all his elemental abilities simultaneously, combining fire, air, earth, ice, and lightning to summon elemental berserk. Minsu stands firm, holding his sword and commending Jongsu's strength. However, he declares that it's still not enough. He activates Durankel's Daybreak mode, unleashing a vertical slash that cuts through Jongsu's ability. In an instant, the ground splits in two, and Jongsu's momentum comes to a sudden halt. The attack has pierced through his arm. The spear warrior collapses defeated as the sword warrior stares down at him, saying that his sadness is not deep enough. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.